Apollo 13 flight controllers, listen up.
Survival movies can be pretty intense, especially those based on true stories. I'll never forget seeing Apollo 13. Now, I knew the story, I knew the ending, but I was still on the edge of my seat during the climax. Survival movies are a pretty consistent genre, to be honest. I mean, sometimes we get a real classic, but at worst we get a competent movie that tells a good story. This past weekend brought us the newest film in this genre, Last Breath, which tells the story of a deep-sea diving crew who battle raging elements to rescue a crewmate who is trapped hundreds of feet below the surface of the ocean. So what do we have here? Is Last Breath a new classic in the genre? Is it just a competent film? Or could it even be a bad film? Well, before we answer that, let's talk a little bit about the plot for the film Last Breath.
You and I will chat.
Chris Lemons is a deep-sea diver. He is scheduled, along with his fellow divers, to submerge hundreds of feet below the surface of the North Sea to repair an oil pipeline. He and his two crewmates, Duncan and David, begin the dive smoothly. However, a major storm causes disruptions on the surface, leading to the dive being stopped. While attempting to return to their ship, however, Chris gets tangled and loses his lights and oxygen feed. Now on backup tanks, Chris only has 10 minutes of oxygen left before he runs out beneath the cold, dark water. So what works in this film? Well, acting is great across the board. Our main cast of Woody Harrelson, Simu Liu, and Finn Cole play our three divers. All do a great job conveying the emotional turmoil of the intense and life-threatening situation. Especially Harrelson, who plays veteran diver Duncan Alcock. This is his last dive before being forced to retire. He really brings an emotionality to his role. Harrelson is one of our most consistent actors these days, and he generally delivers a solid performance and does so again here.
He is so good.
Director Alan Parkinson, who wrote the script for this and actually directed a documentary about this event, obviously is close to the story and really brings it to life here. His direction and the amazing cinematography really are just top-notch. The effects are spectacular, and some of the shots, especially those underwater, are just so well done. Especially those that show how alone and desperate the situation is for Chris. What doesn't work here is that this is that rare modern film that is actually too short. Clocking in at just over an hour and 37 minutes long, I'd have loved to seen a bit more backstory, especially on our main cast. We don't really learn much about them, where they're from, what makes them tick. Another 10-15 minutes of this would have really served this film well. Finally, and this is the weakness for this genre sometimes, it's pretty predictable. You know what's going to happen before it does. And while it's good at building tension, it's not at the same level as, say, Apollo 13, what I mentioned earlier. Now, I think these two negative points, the short runtime and the, no surprises, they kind of are tied together for this film. I think if we knew more backstory on our main characters, we would have connected with them better, and then we would have just felt more for them. We would have been more invested in them and more anxious about their fate. Well, Last Breath is a competent, workmanlike telling of a harrowing true story. It has solid acting, solid directing, and good cinematography. No, it doesn't rise up to the classics in the genre, but it doesn't fail either. I definitely recommend seeing it, but I think you could wait on this one. Wait till it hits the streaming service.
Solid.
Well, that's all I got for you today. Tune in next week, where I give you my thoughts and feelings on whatever I've seen. In the meantime, click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment or a question, share this video with friends and enemies alike, and as always, thank you for giving me your valuable time, and I'll see you next week. Take care.